Commander Rain Carter never liked politics. He liked straight answers, clean missions, and knowing who the enemy was. But today, he stood in the middle of an alien world, wearing a polished uniform that felt like a lie. Threxia 9 was unlike anything he had seen before. The ground pulsed with soft blue light, and the sky above shimmered with two suns and silver clouds. The palace in front of him wasn't made of stone or metal. It was alive, grown from a massive living tree, its surface smooth like skin and warm to the touch. He was Earth's chosen envoy, the first human to speak directly with the Xyrahaxi Dominion's ruler, the Queen. Rain took a deep breath. "Let's get this over with," he muttered. Inside the palace, he was led by silent guards, tall, insect-like beings with glowing eyes. They moved with smooth, perfect steps. No sound, no emotion. Rain couldn't tell if they were nervous or bored. Probably neither. Finally, he entered the throne room. It was massive. The walls curved high into the sky, and giant floating orbs of light danced above. In the center sat Queen Salvanna. She didn't look like a monster or a god. She looked calm, tall and elegant. Her skin was pale silver, with markings that glowed faintly like starlight. Her eyes were large and violet, watching Rain with a strange kind of curiosity. "Human," she said, her voice soft but strong. "You are late." Rain bowed slightly. "Traffic in space is terrible, Your Majesty." The room went silent. Even the guards turned their heads. A joke to the Queen. But Salvanna smiled. "I see humans are as bold as they are strange," she said. "I like that." Rain stepped forward. "I came to talk peace. Earth doesn't want war with the Dominion." The Queen stood and walked toward him. Her movements were graceful, like flowing water. "Peace is not easy, Commander. Your species is new, unpredictable." "Maybe," Rain replied, "but we learn fast." Suddenly, the room shook. A sharp sound rang out, a high-pitched whine. One of the orbs of light exploded. From the shadows, a blade flew toward the Queen. Without thinking, Rain moved. He caught her arm, pulling her away from the path of the weapon. It struck the floor beside them and shattered. Everything stopped. Guards rushed in. Weapons were drawn. Rain realized what he'd done. He had touched the Queen. "No one is allowed to touch her," a guard growled. Rain raised his hands. "I didn't mean." But Salvanna raised hers, silencing everyone. She looked at Rain. Her eyes were unreadable. Then she said, clear and calm, "Human, only you are allowed to touch me." The entire room froze. Rain blinked. What?" The Queen just smiled. No one spoke for several seconds. The guards didn't move. The room was so quiet, Rain could hear his own heartbeat. The Queen had said it clearly. "Only you are allowed to touch me." Rain looked at her, trying to read her face. Was this a test, a joke, or something much more serious? The Queen turned to her guards. "Lower your weapons." They hesitated. "Your Majesty," he broke the sacred rule. "I decide the rules," she said calmly. One by one, the guards stepped back, but they kept their eyes on Rain, confused and suspicious. Rain cleared his throat. "I didn't mean any disrespect. I just reacted." "You saved me," Salvanna replied. "Instinct is a powerful thing." She motioned for him to walk beside her. He followed, still unsure what had just happened. They moved through a long hall filled with glowing plants. The walls pulsed like a heartbeat. Rain felt like the palace was watching him. "You don't understand what you've done," she said softly. "I figured that out when your guards almost turned me into space dust." She glanced at him. "In my culture, touch is sacred. No one touches the Queen, not even my own people. It is a law older than the Dominion itself. Even a friendly touch means connection, trust, sometimes even more." Rain blinked. "So when I grabbed your arm, you broke tradition. But I allowed it. She stopped walking and looked at him. I didn't punish you. I protected you. That means something. He looked away for a second. And what does it mean? That I see something in you, she said. Something important. Rain didn't know how to respond. He had come here to talk about peace between two civilizations, not to become part of an alien legend. Zelvana looked out of a tall window. Outside, the sky was turning purple as the twin suns set. My people will not like this, she said. They fear change. They fear humans. Yeah, well, we're used to that, Rain said. Humans don't always make the best first impression. She gave a small smile. Perhaps, but you are different. You risk your life without thinking. Rain shrugged. I didn't want to see someone get stabbed. Doesn't matter if they're human or not. The queen turned back to him. Her eyes were softer now. I need you to stay. Not as just an envoy, but as something more. A bridge between our species. Rain laughed nervously. You sure about that? I'm not exactly a diplomat. I shoot things better than I talk. She stepped closer. That's exactly why I chose you. The words hung in the air. Rain wasn't sure if he should feel honored or terrified. In the distance, drums began to sound. A meeting of the High Council was about to begin. The Queen's words would soon echo through the Dominion. And Rain had no idea what kind of storm was coming. The next morning, the entire Xerhaxi Dominion knew what had happened. Across 1,000 planets on glowing news panels and floating holoscreens, the image repeated, a human touching the Queen, and living. In most cultures, it would be called a scandal. In the Xerhaxi Dominion, it was much worse. It was a cultural quake. Inside the palace, Rain Carter was already feeling the heat. He stood in the garden, pacing back and forth. Alien birds with crystal wings flew overhead, but he wasn't paying attention. His head was full of questions, and one very big problem. What the hell did I get myself into? He muttered. Footsteps echoed behind him. It was Jorah, the Queen's closest advisor. His tall frame and blue skin shimmered in the morning light, but his eyes were sharp. You have broken what was unbreakable, Jorah said coldly. The people are in shock. The priests are demanding answers. Rain frowned. I didn't break anything on purpose. That does not matter. The Queen declared you the only one allowed to touch her. Do you understand what that means to us? No, Rain admitted, but I'd really like to. Jorah sighed, his anger hidden behind a calm voice. Our species shares thoughts, feelings, and memories through touch. It is sacred. When two Xerhaxi connect, even for a moment, they see each other's truth, their soul. Rain's eyes widened. So when I touched her, she saw yours, Jorah said. And for reasons unknown, she accepted it. Rain looked down at his hands. He hadn't meant to share anything. But now it made sense why the Queen had looked at him like that, like she understood something even he didn't. I didn't mean to start a war, he said. Jorah gave him a long look. Then I suggest you do not take this lightly. Many will want you gone. Some may try to kill you. Rain wasn't surprised. Always knew diplomacy came with perks. Later that day, the Queen appeared before the High Council. The room was massive and round, filled with Xerhaxi nobles, generals, and elders. Rays of light passed through floating crystals, making the room glow. Rain sat quietly in a seat beside her, an honor never given to an outsider. The human did not break our law, Zelvana declared, her voice steady. I changed it. Gasps filled the room. I saw into his spirit, she continued, and I chose him, not just for touch, but for trust. He is to remain here as my bond guardian and guide. Let it be known. One elder stood. This is madness. He is not one of us. He is now, the Queen replied. Rain sat frozen. He didn't know what a bond guardian was, but it definitely sounded like a full-time job. And from the way the nobles stared at him, some in awe, others in rage, He knew life on Threxia 9 had just gotten a lot more complicated. Rain Carter sat alone in the royal chamber, staring at the strange walls. They shifted colors like oil and water, sometimes blue, sometimes silver, sometimes glowing red. This palace was alive, just like everything else on Threxia 9. Even the furniture had a slow pulse. He leaned back and sighed. I just wanted to shake hands and go home. The door slid open without a sound. Queen Salvanna entered, her long cloak flowing behind her like mist. She walked with quiet strength, but her eyes, those glowing violet eyes, were softer now. You are unsettled, she said. Rain stood. I've had better mornings. Your council wants my head. Half your planet is angry, and I have no idea what a bond guardian actually does. Zalvanna gave a small smile. It means you are under my protection, and I am under yours. That's a lot for a guy who just showed up yesterday. She walked closer. You're more than that. I saw it when you touched me. Rain crossed his arms. What exactly did you see? Zalvanna paused, her eyes narrowing as if remembering something distant. Your kind is new to the stars, she said, but in your heart there is something ancient. A fire, a refusal to give up, even when logic says you should. When you pulled me away from that blade, you didn't think. You didn't calculate. You just acted. That kind of instinct is rare. Rain frowned. So you saw all that, just by touch. The queen nodded. Xerhaxi touch is not simple. It shares memory, emotion, even parts of our soul. In that moment, I felt your pain, your courage, your history. I felt your people's struggle to survive. I felt humanity. Rain sat back down, overwhelmed. You felt Earth. Yes, your wars, your music, your storms and stories. Your endless fight to live, even when the stars seemed cold, it moved something inside me. Something I thought was long dead. Rain looked up. What do you mean? The queen turned away for a moment, as if unsure whether to speak. My kind has ruled for over 5,000 years. We have power, technology, knowledge. But we have lost our spark. We do not risk. We do not love. We do not truly feel anymore. Until now. She faced him again. You brought something back into my mind, into my body. That is why I allowed you to touch me. That is why I need you to stay. Rain was silent. He'd come for a simple peace talk. Now he was part of something much bigger, something dangerous and beautiful. Finally, he nodded. All right, I'll stay, but not as a servant. If we're building a bridge between our people, it has to be real, equal. The queen stepped closer. Then we begin, together. At that moment, neither of them saw the red light blinking in the far wall. Someone was watching, and they were not pleased. High above Threxia 9, inside a dark, hidden command ship, a group of Xerhaxi leaders sat around a glowing table. They watched the scene play again and again. The queen touched by a human, and the words she spoke after. One of the figures, cloaked in shadows, slammed his hand on the table. This cannot continue, he growled. The queen has broken the sacred law. For a human. They call him the catalyst, another voice said. Some believe he is the start of a new age, or the end of everything we are. The first replied. We must act. Back in the palace, Rain Carter was walking through the Hall of Spirits. The walls were covered in moving images, memories of past rulers, past wars, past glories. It was like walking through history. Beside him, Jorah, the queen's advisor, spoke quietly. You've started something we cannot stop now. Rain raised an eyebrow. You sound more worried than excited. I am both, Jorah said. There is a term in our ancient language, catalyst protocol. It describes a rare event, when a single outsider changes the course of Xerhaxi destiny. It has happened only twice before. And I'm number 3. Perhaps, if you survive. Rain didn't like the sound of that. Later, in the council chamber, Queen Salvanna stood before her people again. Rain was at her side, wearing ceremonial armor made for him by palace crafters. It shimmered silver and blue, half human, half Xyraxi design. The old ways have kept us strong, Salvanna said to the crowd, but they have also made us blind. The human shows us what we've lost, our fire, our courage, our will to feel. We must evolve. A few council members nodded, but others looked angry. Then suddenly, the chamber lights flickered. A loud voice echoed from hidden speakers. "You are not our queen anymore." Rain jumped to his feet. Guards rushed in. From the shadows, several Xyraxi soldiers wearing black armor appeared, weapons raised. The queen stood tall. "Who dares this betrayal?" One of them stepped forward. His eyes glowed red. "We are the pureblood conclave. We protect tradition. You are corrupted, and the human is a disease." Before Rain could react, the traitors opened fire. Blades of energy cut through the room. Rain grabbed the queen and dove behind a crystal wall. Guards returned fire. The chamber turned into a battlefield. "Stay down," Rain shouted. "No," Salvanna replied. She stood, raised her hand, and unleashed a wave of psychic force that knocked several attackers back. Rain's eyes widened. "You could have led with that." She smiled briefly. "I didn't want to ruin your moment." Together, they fought side by side, human instinct and alien power. One by one, the attackers were defeated. But this was only the beginning. As the smoke cleared, Salvanna looked at Rain with concern. "The conclave is awake, and they will come for both of us." Rain nodded. "Then we hit them first." The palace was quiet after the attack, but it wasn't peaceful. Rain Carter stood on a high balcony, watching the twin moons rise over Threxia 9. Below, repair drones floated around the damaged council chamber. Broken walls, shattered glass, scorched stone. It all told the story of betrayal. Beside him, Queen Salvanna spoke softly. "The pureblood conclave has been hiding for centuries. I didn't think they'd strike so soon." Rain nodded. "They fear change, and I'm the symbol of it." She looked at him. "No, we are." For a moment, they stood in silence. The cold wind brushed past them, carrying scents of alien flowers and distant thunder. Rain broke the silence. "You ever think about walking away from all this?" "Every day," she replied. "But leaders don't get that choice." Rain turned to face her. "Then maybe it's time we lead differently." She raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "People are afraid. Not just of me. They're afraid of what's coming next. We can't just talk about unity. We have to show it. And how do we do that?" He hesitated, then said, "Let them see us together. Not just allies. Something more." The queen was silent for a long moment. Her violet eyes searched his face, trying to read the meaning behind his words. "In Xyraxi tradition," she finally said, "a bond guardian is not just a protector. It's a partner, a chosen one who shares the heart and the mind." Rain's voice lowered. "And if we made that public, it would shock the Dominion." "Good. Shock wakes people up." Salvanna smiled, but there was sadness behind it. "Are you ready for what that means? Once bonded, our minds will be connected. Our feelings, our memories, our pain." Rain didn't flinch. "Maybe that's what we need. No secrets, no walls, just truth." The queen stepped closer. "Then we begin the ritual of echoes, tonight." That evening, in the Temple of Memory, ancient chants echoed through the halls. Only a few trusted guards were present. The ritual was sacred, secret. Rain wore a robe made of living threads that moved with his breath. Salvanna wore a crown of glowing roots. Between them was a pool of silver water, still as glass. She held out her hand. "Once we enter, there is no turning back." Rain didn't hesitate. He took her hand. Together, they stepped into the pool. The liquid surrounded them, but they didn't sink. Instead, it pulled their minds inward. Rain saw flashes. Sylvana as a child, her first battle, her crowning day, the pain of loneliness. She saw his memories too. Earth's burning skies, his lost comrades, his fierce loyalty, and the quiet pain he hid. When they opened their eyes, they were still in the pool. But everything felt different. She whispered, "We are now bonded." Rain felt it. Her presence in his mind. Warm, strong, familiar. But far away, deep underground, the conclave watched the ritual through hidden tech. "The bond is complete," one of them said. "Then it is time to end them. Together." 3 nights after the bonding ritual, the palace had returned to calm. But only on the surface. Rain Carter walked through the royal armory, adjusting the lightweight battle gear given to him by the palace techs. Sleek, flexible, and stronger than steel. He had to admit, the Zerhaxi knew how to make gear feel like a second skin. Queen Sylvana stood across from him, wearing a deep violet armor lined with glowing veins of energy. She looked like royalty and a warrior at the same time. "We don't wait for another attack," Rain said, strapping his pulse blade to his side. "We hit them first." The queen nodded. The conclave's base is hidden in the underdepths, an old war bunker beneath the city ruins. No one has gone there in centuries. Jorah entered, holding a star-shaped data crystal. "We hacked one of their stolen drones. This map shows a secret path, underground tunnels full of traps and sensors. You'll have to move fast and quiet." "We?" Rain asked. "You and the queen," Jorah said. "If we send an army, they'll vanish before we arrive, but they won't expect both of you to come alone." Rain gave a half-smile. "Guess we're the sneaky type now." Later that night, Rain and Sylvana slipped into the ruins of old Threxia. The sky was black, the stars hidden behind thick clouds. Only the sound of distant thunder followed them. The tunnel entrance was hidden under a broken statue of an ancient warrior. Rain crouched, pressed a code into the stone base, and a section of floor slid open. "Ready?" he asked. "Always," the queen replied. They descended into the shadows. Inside the tunnels, the air was thick and cold. Old pipes ran along the walls. Strange lights flickered above them. Dust and silence filled every corner. As they moved, Rain could feel Sylvana's presence in his mind. Calm, alert, steady. Their bond gave them a silent way to speak. "Trap ahead," she warned through thought. Rain froze just in time. A beam of red light scanned the path in front of him. One step more, and he would have triggered it. "Nice catch," he whispered. They ducked under, crawled through vents, and moved past motion sensors. Every few meters, they found signs of life. Fresh footprints, discarded food, energy signatures. "They're close," Sylvana said. Suddenly, a flash of red light blinded them. "Into your ears," a deep voice roared. Dozens of conclave soldiers appeared from hidden doors. Weapons aimed, armor black as void. Rain raised his hands. "Well, so much for sneaky." Sylvana's voice was steady. "We didn't come to hide. We came to end this." One of the soldiers stepped forward, taller than the others, his armor marked with golden lines. "I am Commander Kor," he said. "You should not have come." Rain's hand moved to his blade. "Yeah. Well, we're not leaving without answers." Kor smiled darkly. "Then let me give you your first one." Suddenly, he raised a strange device, and everything around them turned white. When the blinding light faded, Rain Carter found himself trapped inside a transparent energy cage. He reached for his weapon, but it was gone. Across the room, Queen Sylvana stood in another cage, surrounded by shimmering walls that hummed with power. Her expression was calm, but her eyes burned with quiet fury. Commander Kor stepped forward, holding the strange device that had trapped them. "This is a memory extractor," he said. "It doesn't just capture you. It pulls out your thoughts and shows them to everyone." Rain frowned. That sounds like a serious privacy issue. Kor ignored him and turned to a large monitor behind them. The Queen says the human is pure, brave, noble. His voice turned cold. Let's test that. The screen flickered, and suddenly, Rain's memories began to play like a movie. They saw Earth, a battlefield. Explosions, fire, screams. Rain, younger and angry, holding a rifle, making choices in war that no one should have to make. His face was hardened, his heart heavy with guilt. Rain's jaw tightened. That's not who I am anymore. But the Conclave soldiers watched with judgment in their eyes. You call this your champion? Kor sneered at the Queen. A killer of his own kind. Zalvanna's voice rang out strong. Yes, I saw his past, and his pain. But more than that, I saw how he changed. I saw what you are too blind to understand. And what's that? Kor challenged. That strength is not about never falling, she said. It's about rising again, wiser, better, human. Rain looked at her, surprised. Even trapped, even outnumbered, she stood tall. Then Kor turned the device toward her. Your turn, Queen. Zalvanna closed her eyes. Her memories poured onto the screen. Her lonely childhood. Endless ceremonies. A life of duty. Her mother's cold voice. Her silent tears. Her first love, lost in a war she was forced to start. Then, the long years of ruling a people who worshipped her, but never truly knew her. One of the Conclave soldiers lowered his weapon. She never wanted the throne, he whispered. Kor's face twitched. Silence. But the truth was out now. Both Rain and Zalvanna had been exposed, and instead of turning the crowd against them, it made them think. Rain looked at Kor. You wanted to break us. Instead, you showed them why we're strong. With a sudden flicker of light, Zalvanna raised her hand, and the energy cage shattered. The bond between them pulsed like lightning. The Queen stepped out, her armor glowing. Rain caught his blade as it flew back into his hand. The soldiers didn't attack. They stood frozen, uncertain. Something inside them had shifted. Kor roared in frustration. You fools! She is weakening us. He is a disease. No, one of the soldiers said quietly. They are what we lost. Kor reached for his weapon, but Rain was faster. A blast of energy hit the device, shattering it. Kor disappeared into the shadows, escaping. But the tide had turned. Rain looked at Zalvanna. Ready to finish this. She nodded. It's time to bring the Conclave down. The halls of the Conclave base shook as alarms blared through the walls. Soldiers ran in every direction, unsure of who to fight, or if they should even fight at all. Rain Carter and Queen Zalvanna moved side by side through the chaos. Their bond was stronger now, each thought, each feeling shared in perfect sync. Where he moved with instinct, she moved with power. Together, they were unstoppable. We head for the core chamber, Zalvanna said, her voice calm despite the madness. It controls the Conclave's entire network. Rain nodded. And Kor. He'll be waiting. As they entered the main corridor, a squad of Conclave loyalists blocked their path. Their weapons were raised, but their eyes showed doubt. Step aside, Zalvanna commanded. The leader hesitated. We swore to protect the old ways. You swore to protect our people, she replied. Look around. The old ways are dying. One by one, the soldiers lowered their weapons. Rain gave a small nod. Smart choice. They pushed forward, finally reaching the massive doors of the core chamber. Rain placed a charge on the control panel, stepped back, and boom, the doors blew open. Inside, Commander Kor stood in front of a glowing pillar of energy. His armor was upgraded, pulsing red with stolen power. I warned you, he growled. Humans are poison. Rain stepped forward. You're just scared of change. I'm not scared, Kor snarled. I'm prepared. He raised his arms, and the room lit up with fire. Twin energy blades appeared in his hands. Rain rushed in without hesitation. His blade clashed with Kor's in a shower of sparks. Zelvanna moved behind them, using her psychic force to weaken the power core. The entire base began to tremble. Kor roared, pushing Rain back with a surge of power. She made you strong, human, but you are still flesh and bone. Rain grinned. Yeah. Then let's see how flesh and bone hits. He darted forward, ducked under Kor's strike, and drove his blade into the commander's side. Kor stumbled, but instead of falling, he laughed. You think this is over? He gasped. You've only started the fire. Suddenly, he pressed a device on his wrist. The energy core flared, glowing unstable. He's overloading the base, Zelvanna shouted. Rain pulled her back as the walls cracked and the ceiling rumbled. Lights flickered. Sparks flew. He'll destroy everything, Rain shouted. Zelvanna closed her eyes, placed her hands on the energy core, and whispered ancient words. The bond between her and Rain pulsed brightly. Her body glowed with raw psychic power. The overload slowed, then stopped. Kor fell to his knees. His weapon clattered to the floor. It's done, Rain said, breathing hard. No, Zelvanna replied softly. It's just beginning. All around them, screens lit up with images. The entire Dominion was watching. The Queen looked directly into the camera. To all Xerhaxi, the war for the past is over. The future begins now, with truth, with change, and with unity. Beside her, Rain placed his hand on her shoulder. Together, they had won the first battle. But the galaxy was still watching. The stars above Threxia 9 looked brighter than ever. Peace had returned to the planet, but everything had changed. The conclave was broken. The truth had spread across the Dominion. Old leaders stepped down. New voices began to rise. Rain Carter stood on the palace balcony, watching the sky. It had been weeks since the battle underground. The galaxy was still buzzing with news of what he and Queen Zelvanna had done. People call us legends now, he said, half laughing. Zelvanna walked beside him, her long robes flowing in the wind. Legends are just people who didn't quit when things got hard. Rain looked at her with a smirk. Then I guess we earned it. Below them, thousands of Xerhaxi citizens gathered in the city square. The Unity Festival was about to begin, a celebration of the new era. The two moons hung above like silent guardians, watching this fresh chapter unfold. Jorah approached from behind. It's time. The people are waiting. Rain took a deep breath. Never thought I'd be a part of something like this. Zelvanna placed her hand gently on his. You are not just a part. You are the heart of it. They stepped onto the grand stage. The crowd roared with cheers, chants, and glowing banners that stretched across the sky. Drones hovered overhead, broadcasting the moment across the stars. Zelvanna raised her voice, calm and clear. Once we ruled through fear, through silence, through old laws that held us back. But today we rise as something more, as a people reborn. The crowd cheered again. She turned to Rain, and we were not alone. A human walked among us, not as an enemy, but as a friend, a fighter, and a guide. Rain stepped forward. I came here by accident. I stayed because I found something worth protecting. A people who could be more. A queen who had the courage to change everything. The citizens clapped, many wiping tears from their eyes. Zelvanna smiled. From this day forward, Earth and Threxia 9 will stand together. As allies, as family. She turned to Rain, eyes soft but strong. I offer you not just my gratitude, but my future. Will you walk beside me, not just as a hero, but as a partner? Rain looked at her, heart pounding. He thought of Earth, of the war, of everything he'd lost. And then he thought of her, of what they had built, of what they could still become. He nodded. Always. The crowd exploded with joy. Fireworks lit the sky. ribbons of blue, purple, and gold dancing in the night. Somewhere beyond the stars, other planets watched. A message had been sent. Humans were not weak. Humans could change everything. And this time, they had. As the stars shimmered and the music rose, Rain and Salvanna stood together, no longer from different worlds, but from one united future. The age of isolation was over. The era of unity had begun.